You're standing in the shower, and somewhere between washing your hair and standing there motionless for 11 minutes, you have rehearsed an entire argument with someone who doesn't even know they've upset you yet. Or maybe you're driving to work, and you've just delivered the absolute perfect, devastating response to a comment your manager made 3 weeks ago. Your timing is flawless. Everyone in the imaginary room is quietly impressed. And then a car horn blares, snapping you back, and you realize you've been doing 47 in the passing lane with the facial expression of someone accepting an Oscar. If any part of that makes you look around nervously, you are in good company. But for a specific type of mind, this behavior crosses a distinct line. The standard temporary daydream drifts away, and the internal world becomes a primary residence. When the brain begins to treat internal simulation as more rewarding than external reality, the perception of your surroundings shifts. The physical world starts to feel thin. It feels flat, as if it has suddenly lost its substance. For these individuals, the mind constructs highly detailed worlds, complete with recurring characters and plots that evolve over months and years. They spend the vast majority of their waking day inside narratives built entirely in their own heads. In 2002, clinical psychologist Professor Eli Sommer formally identified this pattern. He called it maladaptive daydreaming. Stepping out of those constructed worlds and back into the friction of real life is harsh. Real people are unpredictable. Conversations don't follow your script, and actual human intimacy is slow, messy, and involves a lot of sitting with uncertainty. The daydream never disappoints you that way. This flowchart illustrates the resulting emotional trap. You resurface from a 30-minute scenario, realizing the world kept moving while you are gone, and it hits you with a heavy wave of shame. That shame directly feeds the need to escape again, which deepens the habit. And as the cycle spins, the space left for your actual life continues to shrink. Ultimately, the compounding habit systematically replaces an actual life with a perfectly engineered illusion. To understand why this happens, we have to look past the external behavior and examine the physical wiring of the brain. Specifically, what occurs the exact moment you stop paying attention to what is right in front of you. This is the default mode network. When external sensory inputs drop away, this specific neural web lights up to generate memories and fantasies. But in maladaptive daydreamers, this network overrides the system. The internal simulation becomes the preferred setting and actively shields itself against incoming reality. Research links this to a psychological trait called high absorption. The people most prone to this override are highly sensitive. They are the individuals who get completely lost in a piece of music, or feel genuinely wrecked for days after watching a film. They experience the world with overwhelming intensity. This state is not a failure of intelligence or a lack of focus. It is an overactive biological network hijacking a highly sensitive mind's capacity to feel deeply. Once that biological pathway is established, the content of the fantasies starts to take on a very specific shape. When Professor Sommer researched these patterns, he found something crucial. This behavior is regularly dismissed as lazy escapism, as if these individuals are simply avoiding adult responsibilities. The data completely contradicts that. The fantasies are highly functional. They provide emotional resolution, total environmental control, and a version of interpersonal connection that feels safe. Inside a daydream, you hold all the power. You can toss out a conversation, rewind it, and edit the dialogue until the other person finally understands you perfectly. You bypass the slow vulnerability required in real-life relationships entirely. Eventually, your brain hardwires a dangerous lesson. It learns that your most profound emotional needs are met much more reliably by internal ghosts than by living people. If you trace the life history of someone who develops this pattern, you consistently find environments that were chronically lonely, intensely overwhelming, or entirely unsafe. For a highly sensitive person landing in a harsh world, the nervous system builds an invisible, creative exit door to ensure survival. Faced with a reality they couldn't control, quietly disappearing into their own mind was the least destructive coping mechanism available to them. This mental architecture functioned as a temporary psychological solution to a hostile environment. When people recognize this pattern in themselves, their first instinct is usually to try to fix it by entirely eliminating the inner world. But erasing your imagination doesn't solve the underlying need. The goal is to use your elaborate fantasies as a diagnostic blueprint. By extracting the pieces from that towering internal world on the left, you can identify exactly which emotional needs are starving and use them to build a grounded reality on the right. Ask yourself, what specific connections, what resolutions, or what emotional rehearsals are your fake scenarios providing that you are currently too afraid to ask for out loud? The fact that you can build coherent worlds inside your mind, populated with emotional nuance and complex narratives, is a genuinely impressive cognitive capability. The tragedy of maladaptive daydreaming isn't that you imagine so deeply. The tragedy is deciding your depth is only safe when it is invisible. The work now is to finally allow that profound internal richness to exist in the real world.